Right, so welcome to the Rosa Mystica. And yeah, this is different. This is new. This is newly born, a newborn baby. And I'm really happy that you're here, that you were attracted to come and to participate in this, not even knowing what it really would be. And we don't know yet. But there are some ingredients that are going to be shared today that can open doors that you didn't even know existed. So that's really what this is for. Now, Rosa Mystica is the idea often say traveling through the 7 continents, but at the same time, that's too huge. But it's great to at least pick one of the poets or the ones that are really involved in poetry from every continent, and to see what they have to say, coming from their culture, sometimes maybe having a link with the Western culture. But anyway, so it's like there's a very big lot to discover. And so far in the preparation for this, it has been very inspiring, just because of the fact that there is, like, how do you do mystical poetry? You could say, how do you do poetry that is related to your deepest experience, like the unexpressible? How can you express the unexpressible? Now, we have been made some serious attempts already in previous, possibilities for that in the meetings that we had. But this is a bit of a different nature, in the sense that we will not necessarily directly present much here in the meeting itself, but we'll find moments where we can do that. And for instance, now I got the invitation out to the summer solstice, like on the 21st of June, for instance. We are able to express ourselves, for instance, by expressing poetry. And that would be a great moment to spread some of your poetry into the open. So like I said, now we have 1 hour, and this hour I'm really using, in that sense, to come to this frequency of now that we're in, like allowing that to be new in yourself, in the sense of you tap into something that is literally on the edge of your consciousness, and a subtlety and a beauty, and all the aspects that you could imagine are related to the subtle expression of your love for God, is really where this starts. So today our special guest is Sri Aurobindo, but I will also read some other poetry, but it's more like Sri Aurobindo is giving us a lesson today, a lesson in how to do this, how to look at this, like a possibility to look at the mystical verse, and really coming to the depth of the expression. Like, you can write a poem, you can do whatever you like, sure, and that's fun too. Like, you play with words and suddenly, boom, oh wow, that's great. But here we're talking about coming in yourself, literally, to a recognition of the subtlety or the beauty that deeply stirs you in your withinness, that is totally unexpressible, but in one way or another you make an attempt to express it on such a profound, deep way that only you could express it. Like, it becomes such an extension of that what you are experiencing, that makes all the difference, and that makes it to a mystical verse, you could say, that is lasting, that literally breathes eternity in itself. Now, that seems like a very high goal to achieve, so that's you're not achieving that. So it's like in your attempt to express that, suddenly something can happen in which that actually is taking place. Like that's a miraculous expression of poetry, you could say. Now, real master in that is Sri Aurobindo. That's why he came up just like that to like, okay, you guys are talking Asia, talking poetry, like mystical poetry. Excuse me, 1 second. This is a bit like what came to me. So Sri Aurobindo suddenly is right here with us and sharing, like, yeah, I got to tell you this. And this is something that I would like us to listen to right now. So I read something from the book, The Future Poetry of Sri Aurobindo. And this is specifically about what I try to express here myself. But yeah, this I see it as a starting point. And I know that the stakes in terms of listening and imagining even what this is about are so high, you could say. That's absolutely incredible. Now this is the start of where we start off here. And that's pretty amazing. But that's really a gift that's literally occurring while this program is opening up, you could say. So that's what I love about it, and that's why I had like, oh yeah, this is a great example of one who knows where he's talking about, how that actually works to literally give birth to the mystical verse in such a way, not just using words that relate to your spiritual experience, but actually coming to a much deeper layer in yourself where this becomes expressible. So that sounds really good to me. And it is like, I only read 10 minutes out of the book, so that's why we're going to listen to it. It's only 10 minutes out of the book, but it's like, imagine that there are like 20 chapters about it. This was just a little segment out of it. The Future Poetry, Sri Aurobindo, Chapter 2, The Essence of Poetry. What then is the nature of poetry, its essential law? What is the highest power we can demand from it? What the supreme music that the human mind, reaching up and in and out to its own widest breadths, deepest depths and topmost summits, can extract from this self-expressive instrument? And how out of that does there arise the possibility of its use as the mantra of the real? Not that we need spend any energy in a vain effort to define anything so profound, elusive and indefinable as a breath of poetic creation, to take the myriad string harp of Saraswati to pieces for the purpose of scientific analysis is a narrow and barren amusement. But we stand in need of some guiding intuition, some helpful descriptions which will serve to enlighten our search, to fix in that way, not by definition, but by description, the essential things in poetry is neither an impossible nor an unprofitable endeavor. We meet here two common enough errors, to one of which the ordinary and uninstructed mind is most liable, to the other, the too instructed critic, or the too intellectually conscientious artist or craftsman. To the ordinary mind, judging poetry without really entering into it, it looks as if it were nothing more than an aesthetic pleasure of imagination, the intellect and the ear, a sort of elevated pastime. If that were all, we need not have wasted time in seeking for its spirit, its inner aim, its deeper law. Anything pretty, pleasant and melodious with a beautiful idea in it would serve our turn. A song of Anacreon or a plaint of the Mimnermus would be as satisfying as the poetic sense as the Oedipus, Agamemnon, or Odyssey. For from this point of view, they might well strike us as equally and even. One might contend more perfect in their light, but exquisite unity and brevity. Pleasure, certainly, we expect from poetry as from all art, but the external sensible and even the inner imaginative pleasure are only first elements. For these must not only be redefined in order to meet the highest requirements of the intelligence, the imagination and the ear, but afterwards they have to be still further heightened and in their nature raised beyond even their own noblest levels, so that they may become the support for something greater beyond them. Otherwise they cannot lead to the height on which lives the mantra. For neither the intelligence, the imagination, nor the ear are the true, or at least the deepest or highest recipients of the poetic delight, even as they are not its true or highest creators. They are only its channels and instruments. The true creator, the true hearer, is the soul. The more rapidly and transparently the rest do their work of transmission, the less they make of their separate claim to satisfaction, the more directly the word reaches and sinks deep into the soul, the greater the poetry. Therefore, poetry has not really done its work, at least its highest work, until it has raised the pleasure of the instrument and transmuted it into the deeper delight of the soul, a divine ananda, a delight interpretative, creative, revealing, formative. One might almost say an inverse reflection of the joy with which the universal soul felt in its great release of energy when it rang out into the rhythmic forms of the universe, the spiritual truth, the large interpretive idea, the life, the power, the emotion of things packed into the original creative vision. Such spiritual joy is that which the soul of the poet feels, and which, when he can conquer the human difficulties of his tasks, he succeeds in pouring also into all those who are prepared to receive it. This delight is not merely a godlike pastime. It is a great formative and illuminative power. The critic of a certain type, or the intellectually conscientious artist, will on the other hand often talk as if poetry were mainly a matter of faultlessly correct and at most an exquisite technique. Certainly in all art, good technique is the first step towards perfection, but there are so many other steps. There's a whole world beyond before you can get near to what you seek. So much so that even a deficient correctness of execution will not prevent an intense and gifted soul from creating great poetry, which keeps its hold on for the centuries. Moreover, technique, however indispensable, occupies a smaller field, perhaps in poetry, than in any other art. First, because its instrument, the rhythmic word, is fuller of subtle and immaterial elements. Then, because the most complex, flexible, variously suggestive of all the instruments of the artistic creator, it has more, almost infinite possibilities in many directions than other. The rhythmic word has a subtle, sensible element, its sound value, a quite immaterial element, its significance or thought value. And both of these again, its sound and its sense, have separately and together a soul value, a direct spiritual power, which is infinitely the most important thing about them. And though this comes to birth with a small element subject to the laws of technique, yet almost immediately, almost at the beginning of its flight, its power soars up beyond the province of any law of mechanical construction. And this form of speech carries in it on its summit an element which draws close to the empire of the ineffable. Poetry rather determines its own form. The form is not imposed on it by any law mechanical external to it. The poet, least of all artists, needs to create with his eye fixed anxiously on the technique of his art. He has to possess it, no doubt, but in the heat of creation the intellectual sense of it becomes a subordinate action or even a mere undertone in his mind. And in his best moments he is permitted in a way to forget it altogether. For then the perfection of his sound, movement and style come entirely as the spontaneous form of his soul, that utters itself in an inspired rhythm and an innate, a revealed word, even as the universal soul created the harmonies of the universe out of the power of the word secret and eternal within him, leaving the mechanical work to be done in a search of hidden spiritual excitement by the subconscious part of his nature. It is this highest speech, which is the supreme poetic utterance, the immortal element of his poetry, and a little of it is enough to save the rest of his work from oblivion. So now, you say, of course. Of course, yes, indeed, yes, I knew it, yes, indeed. So this is something else. I really love this because the subtlety of and the specificness of expression is very delightful to listen to, and seeing some of his expressions coming to your ear, to your soul, you'll see what it does. Like it not necessarily connects with you. It really depends if this is for you. So that's perfectly all right. So I don't want to force anything upon you, of course not. So this is in expressing how poetry works, like a really beautiful part. Now, if there's one thing that I want you to come in touch with, then is, as far as you aren't, is like this incredible subtlety of expression. It's like this is a deep layer within yourself expressing itself. And it's not material, it has no relationship with the world necessarily. It has to do with how that soul is singing its song. And that is the loveliness of it. So I'm so happy to share this with you, especially in the first meeting that we have in the Rosa Mystica. It's like that is so great to start with, because it literally you tune into a frequency of subtlety that is quite extraordinary. It's like that's absolutely beautiful. Now this you recognize in yourself and can come to the service when you are making these expressions. Now we will take a look at some of the expressions that Sri Aurobindo did, just to take another look at it. So this is the essence of poetry. That was the chapter, Essence of Poetry, from the Future Poetry. It's Auroville, 1972. It was written, at least it was published, because it was written between 1920 and 1935 or something. So it has been a while, but it is so up to date. That's why it's like it's written yesterday, that's for sure, today even. The essence of poetry. What then is the nature of poetry? Its essential law. What is the highest power we can demand from it? What's the supreme music that the human mind, reaching up and in and out to its own widest breadths, deepest depths and topmost summits, can extract from this self-expressive instrument? Now these are some questions to think about. It's like, yeah, let that sink in a little bit. And of course you can say, take a look at that at a time that's convenient for you. But here we listen to it, to these questions. Deepest depths and topmost summits can extract from this self-expressive instrument. Literally, it's like, what is the nature of poetry? Its essential law. It's like, and you raise above it while making it. You raise above it. We'll come to that in a moment. So that is beautiful. What's the supreme music that the human mind, reaching up and in and out to its own widest breadths and deepest depths and topmost summits? So this is what you do when you start coming into poetic expression or any self-expression. So in that sense, it's real fundamental, say, inspiration that is given here. It's like, what is the nature of it? What is the nature? Its essential law. Like, where does this start in you? How deep and how deep do you need to go to connect with that what is real about you in order to express from there? But we stand in need of some guiding intuition, some helpful descriptions which will serve to enlighten our search to the withinness, to fix in that way, not by definition but by description. The essential things in poetry is neither an impossible nor an unprofitable endeavor. We meet here two common enough errors. So like this is when you start writing poetry, to one of which the ordinary uninstructed mind is most liable, to the other, the too instructed critic or too intellectually conscientious artist or craftsman. Like there are two ways, like you can stay in the superficiality of your human mind in order to express yourself and find symbols that you associate with, but that's not the pure inspiration. Now here's another common error, is to be too critical and too intellectually conscientious about what you are doing and what you are expressing, that it's literally impossible to express. Right? You probably, say, encountered both already in trying to express yourself. Like if you think too much about it, it's not going to work either, or too critical. Like there's a freedom connected to it. But then also it shouldn't be too superficial, because then what are you doing? Like, yeah, you just make human poetry, you could say. And that's okay, that's perfectly all right. But then you miss the depth of connecting with the expression of soul. So to the ordinary mind, judging poetry without really entering into it, it looks as if it were nothing more than an aesthetic pleasure of the imagination. Like if you keep it superficial, then it's just a pleasure of imagination, and you think like, well, I did that pretty good, that's great, wonderful. Well, that's entertaining, I like it. See, this is very much like, yeah, then you miss the opportunity to go deeper into it. Pleasure, certainly, we expect from poetry as from all art, but the external, sensible, and even the inner imaginative pleasure are only first elements. It's like, that's great, but that's, yeah, like I said, superficial. So there's more that can happen, and why not take time to let that happen and to not focus on like just playfulness and imaginative pleasure, but going a little deeper and see what's up. For these must not only be refined in order to meet the highest requirements of the intelligence, the imagination of the ear, but afterwards, like beyond the symbols that you have used, something can still happen. Afterwards, they have to be still further heightened and in their nature raised beyond even their own noblest level, so that they may become the support for something greater beyond them. Otherwise, they cannot lead to the height on which lives the mantra. So I mentioned this. This is pure inspiration. Like this is, if you want to go into poetry and say letting poetry come up in you, you have to look at this. It's like you don't want to fall into the superficiality of just using symbols to have an imaginary play or some funny things that you share, and not criticize yourself too much in the form. Like, okay, I need to have the format and all this. Like, no, this goes much deeper. So in other words, this needs to like be born in you, or it needs to develop. You develop this in yourself, and of course you have been doing that. And so this is just another inspiration to go and let that dictate itself, so to speak, even deeper. Being aware of the fact that the things that happen easily are that you stay in form, that you stay in the entertaining part of it, just to present something, or who knows what your impulse is. But like, no, this time we go a little bit deeper. Like we wanna come in touch with soul and see that in the expression. That's great. It's like the first, of course, you use imaginative play. You use words, in other words. You use words, but then there can still take place an elevation, and a way of expressing yourself like never before. Like you come into a different place inside yourself. Now I see, for instance, one of the ways that Sri Aurobindo does that in his poetry, which I've read quite a bit, is in fact staying with one subject, staying, you could say, with one line, but then giving more and more descriptions of the same line. Like, for instance, the river flows between the mountains, and then using that as a symbol, coming with descriptions, like as if and then you give a description, and then that goes from there. Like that, you go deeper and deeper and deeper into it. Literally everything is relating to this one sentence. The river is flowing through the river, through the mountains. But you give descriptions that literally bring it to incredible height, that you look at every aspect of a lot of aspects of this flow of the river, and how it is embedded between the mountains, and literally bring that to life as if you were painting a painting, and wanting to see all the colors, like all the colors, as if there's a rainbow represented in a way that you've never seen before. Like this is the what I see Sri Aurobindo do. In fact, staying with one subject, writing a 900-page book with all poetry, literally all poetry, basically staying with one subject, and that's the book Savitri. So it's like you cannot believe the incredible universe he creates by just staying right there and bringing that in. And illustrating it, imagining it, seeing it in all kinds of different ways, and all this. So this just as an example, is then what we could term like the assignment for next week is to take one subject, but then this one subject, you're going to give descriptions of this one subject that literally show you all sides of it and all depths of it, as far as you dare to go. Or you can stay with one subject, one word, but just give descriptions of it, let formulations come to the surface in which you literally are going to express this, and let it express itself. So it's like you probably notice improvisation exercises, like you just keep writing. You just keep writing. Like your associations with one word, you just keep writing. Now then you throw all that away and you start writing again. So to come to the core within yourself, you come to the core of something very new that you otherwise wouldn't have come to. I see this with many painters. They work like that too. They make a lot of sketches, they throw them all out. And it was just like, okay, this needed to go out first before anything. Like as long as you think in terms of form and of an outcome, you just keep throwing it away. Like, no, this needs to be completely empty. Like this is written on an empty canvas. And the same with this is written on an empty piece of paper. It is completely bare and it is writing itself. Coming from a deep depth inside yourself, but coming to that first by a real exercise for yourself, like a real discipline in order to empty out the ideas that were there in the way, in fact, to literally come to the light within you that dictates to you what to write. Now this is just one way, but it's great to use. So I will use that in the next episode, or you can play with that. You can exercise with that in the next in the next week, like up to the next meeting. It's great to play with that in that sense. Or to really, it's a study in a certain sense. So that prevents you from making something that's already finished. Like if you would come up with the first idea and you finish it, then you miss the whole process of going down up to the moment that you don't have any ideas anymore, and then you start to write. Now this is transformative poetry writing. It really is. It's like very transformative, because you love your ideas. You want to hold on to them. You think they're great, and you're going to work with that. No, you're not. You throw it all out. Like, so everything that I've done before, I leave that for what it is. And now here is an empty piece of paper. My ideas are gone. Like, I have no idea what to write. Now here, I pick up my pen and literally start writing. So you see how much this is related to, in fact, meditation, or coming to the depths of listening instead of associating with your own ideas. Like, how can you listen if your mind is full of associate ideas, thinking about this, about that, and the flower, the color of the flower, the bees, and the no. Like, no. So we're going to exercise, like we're going to play with that. Poetry rather determines its own form. The form is not imposed on it by any law, mechanical or external to it. So the poet, least of all artists, needs to create with his eye fixed anxiously on the technique of his art. He has to possess it, no doubt, but in the heat of creation, the intellectual sense of it becomes subordinate action, or even a mere undertone in his mind. And in his best moments, he is permitted, in a way, to forget it altogether. Now, this is a bit what I said, so this is not subject related, but more the form related, like the technique that you're using. For instance, if you have an idea that you have to write a haiku, you look for the form and you try to press your poetry into it. And here it is like, no. So you're not even determining the form. So you can try whatever you want, that's perfectly all right, but now we're not working from the form. We work from inspiration, and poetry rather determines its own form. See, that's great too. This gives you a whole new freedom, in fact, to make poetry. For then the perfection of his sound, movement and style come entirely as the spontaneous form of his soul, that utters itself in an inspired rhythm and an innate, a revealed word, even as the universal soul created the harmonies of the universe out of the power of the word secret and eternal within him, leaving the mechanical work to be done in a surge of hidden spiritual excitement by the subconscious part of his nature. See, this is really like miracle poetry. I cannot say it any other way. It's like this is the miraculous part of poetry. It's literally coming from your subconscious. It's deeper. It's like below the superficial level of your consciousness, literally a miracle impulse coming to the surface. So this brings this so close to well, it's literally an expression of the miracle impulse coming to expression in you by dropping every idea of form, of a subject, of the way that it should be done, or any kind of law that you try to impose on it. No, letting it just freely flow from you. It is the highest speech, which is the supreme poetic utterance, the immortal element in his poetry, and a little of it is enough to save the rest of his work from oblivion. It's fun to see, like Sri Aurobindo basically expresses here the idea of the conservation of your poetic work. Like if it has an essence in it, an essence in terms of a connection with reality, it will just say exist throughout. Like it literally has become a reality in that sense. It is part of the creative power of the universe. And yeah, so but there's to an extent there's an conservation related to it. Like it will not disappear into oblivion. No, it will stay with its creative power in itself, and as you have written it, or as it comes to the surface. This is just wonderful. I just totally love this. So that's why I had to share it with you. This is an instruction that I've never had, to be honest, but always was very interested to look for it. And I recognize it as, yes, in writing poetry, in coming to, say, bringing that up, your mind needs to be empty. You need to be completely receptive and allow literally the miracle to happen. Then it falls into place just like that. Like it becomes easy, effortless, but also it has a depth and a language and a form that is literally not of you, but you're totally included in it. So that's absolutely beautiful. I keep an eye on the time. So I want to express some of Sri Aurobindo's poetry, just to show you some of that from the same book. Like I only use the book that you can find in the syllabus, and it's great to download because there's so much more to read about poetry. And in fact, he gives you instruction and focuses, helps you to go further and deeper into the the mystical verse. Okay, so now sit back and relax. You have done a lot of listening already, so this is really connecting with yourself more than anything else. ocean oneness. Silence is round me, whiteness ineffable. White birds on the ocean diving and wandering, a soundless sea on a voiceless heaven. Azure on azure is mutely gazing, identified with silence and boundlessness. My spirit widens, grasping the universe, till all that seemed becomes the real. One in a mighty and single vastness. Someone brews their nameless and bodiless, conscious and lonely, deathless and infinite, and soul in a still eternal rapture gathers all things to his heart forever. Ascend the silence, into the silence, into the silence. Arise, O Spirit immortal, away from the turning wheel, breaking the magical circle. Ascend, single and deathless. Care no more for the whispers and shoutings in the darkness. Pass from the sphere of the grey and the little, leaving the cry and the struggle into the silence forever. Vast and immobile, formless and marvelous, higher than heaven, wider than the universe, in a pure glory of being, in a bright stillness of self-seeing, communing with a boundlessness, voiceless and intimate. Make thy knowledge too high for thought, thy joy too deep for emotion. At rest in the unchanging light, mute with the wordless self-vision. Spirit, pass out of thyself. Soul, escape the clutch of nature. All thou hast seen cast from thee, O witness. Turn to the alone and the absolute. Turn to the eternal. Be only eternity, peace and silence. O world transcending nameless oneness, Spirit immortal. Beyond the silence, out from the silence, out from the silence, carrying with thee the ineffable substance, carrying with thee the splendor and whiteness. Ascend, O Spirit immortal, assigning to time its endless meaning. Blissful enter into the clasp of the timeless. Awaken the living eternal, taken to the bosom of love of the infinite. Live self-found in his endless completeness, drowned in his joy and his sweetness. Thy heart close to the heart of the Godhead forever. Fast, God-possessing, embraced by the wonderful, lifted by all beautiful into his infinite beauty. Love shall envelop thee endless and phantomless, joy unimaginable, ecstasy illimitable, knowledge omnipotent, might omniscient, light without darkness, truth that is dateless, one with the transcendent calm universal, single and free, yet innumerably living, all in thyself in all dwelling. Act in the world with thy being beyond it. Soul exceed life's boundaries. Spirit surpass the universe, outclimbing the summits of nature, transcending and uplifting the soul of the infinite, of the finite. Rise with the word. Rise with the world in thy bosom. O word, gathered into the heart and of the ineffable, one with the eternal, live in his infinity, drowned in the absolute, found in the Godhead, swan of the supreme and spaceless ether, wandering winged through the universe, Spirit immortal. So this is an introduction to to the meta. Wow, I can hardly speak. Thank you for letting me do this, really. It's like, of course, I can always do this, but thank you for letting me do this. This is so amazing to share this with you. It's like, this is my biggest secret right here. I'm sharing it with you. Like, if you could even taste or smell or get a zip of it, that's everything. If this moves you in some kind of way, it would be an incredible accomplishment for yourself. Like, that is the subtlety and the absolute beauty of this expression that is given to us. Now, this was the mystical rose I wanted to present to you. It's like, this can only be like a total love poem in which you try to, express the ineffable, like that that is so huge and so incredible that you can't express it. Yet in the attempt, like the whole world dissolves, and everything that you ever thought suddenly disappears into oblivion. And what is left is the real that is always with you, like a love that goes so far beyond understanding. Now you see that, and this is the paradox, or it's interesting to see this, is like the thing that happens is, and now we come from continent to continent in this series, but you see it transcends the world. So that's, don't tell anyone, but it's really fun actually. Yeah. So if this speaks to you, my God, you're so blessed, and that is so lovely. Now to come into the field, this is to tap into the frequency of now. In this writing of this, like in letting this come to the service within you, like following that impulse from within after a deep connection with soul, like you just did, like you see the words that are flowing out of you have no personal connotation any longer. It's like they come to the service and they express something that is literally a gift to everyone, but very recognizable, using symbols of the world, for instance, like the bird or the this or that. Like, that's great, but only to go immediately beyond the word, not staying with the symbol of am I saying the right things, or no, that's not important then in that sense. When it is expressing itself, like in that fire, it goes beyond all law, and that's exactly what we would love to see happen in yourself, of course, in your expression, into the poetry that is given to you. So that is a bit of practice, and it is literally seeing when you can be ready, of when you can receive this. So it's more about that than in manufacturing something. So this is really the essence of the Rosa Mystica, that as we use it. Like, this is about letting that occur in you in the time that it can occur, not to force it, just in fact to open a way for the imprisoned splendor to escape. Literally, this is imprisoned splendor when it isn't expressed yet, but you are literally the instrument yourself through which it can be expressed. Now that is really beautiful, and will literally take you by surprise, because what is coming to the service will surprise you. You cannot believe that is what came to the service, and this kind of surprise I would love you to have with what you write. I'm not going to force myself into it. So anyway, thank you so much for today. Thank you that you are present here. I hope you got the taste of it, and now, yeah, there's work to do. And in that sense, like there's work to do, you can work with this. And so take a look at this, listen to this again if you feel like it, or use use the PDF with the ingredients in it, or like there's a lot of material that can help you on the way. So thank you so much for your presence, and I hope to see you in the next episode. Thank you so much.